If you have kids or dependents of any kind, chances are you've created a will or a trust or a living trust with them. But have you ever thought of doing something like this for your teams? Well, stick with me and let me tell you why it might be a good thing.
Hi, I'm Carlyn Holbrook. I'm a John Maxwell Team certified coach, teacher, trainer, speaker, published author, and influencer with more than 25 years of global leadership experience. If there's one thing I've seen firsthand time and time again, it's that the best leaders inspire others to follow their purpose and their passions, while the influence of a bad leader can literally tear down people's potential. Join me for a few sips of leadership tips that will help you become a better leader by first conquering the hardest person to lead, you.
As parents or grandparents or foster care parents or whoever you are that has kids or dependents in your charge, you tend to think a lot about their future, right? About what will happen, what will they do for a living, how will they grow. I think even from the time, none of us obviously were born to be able to walk and talk, right out of the womb. We had to learn. We had to learn how to sound out words and learn the language and learn how to hold a fork even, or learn rules for crossing the street. I mean, there were so many things that we have to learn. And then I think as time goes by so fast and kids grow up as parents, and again, grandparents, aunts, uncles, anybody who has a kid in your charge, a human or even not human kids. I don't have human children. I have lots of nieces and nephews, but I have 2 kitty cats that I care about. And you often think about, okay, what if something happened to me? Who would take care of them? And who would take care of the house? And who would get, grandma's necklace that's been in the family for 85 generations? I'm making stuff up, but heirlooms get passed down and all of this. And so I think we think about this so much in our personal life to make sure that the future is intact as much as we can. It's almost like we can want to control a little bit of it beyond the grave, but at least we feel good saying, okay, I'm setting up my kids, my family for in whatever circumstance happens, if I'm no longer on this earth, how will they be taken care of? All right, it might be a little bit of a morbid example, but I was thinking about this in terms of just leadership in general and how so often I think we get caught up in the cycle of leading for the future, right? We want to lead for the here and now to deliver to our customers, our consumers, our guests, whoever that is. And then what about the future? The vision of the future. But somehow, somewhere, we lose the vision of the future to be the youngest generation in our workforce. I'm fascinated by this massive disconnect with people. So we have so many generations in the workforce right now, probably more than ever before, from boomers and Gen Xers to millennials, somehow spans like a 20-year, generation, which is funny to me. And then Gen Zers are starting to increase so much in the workplace. And then alphas are going to be not far behind them pretty soon here. But we plan for the future of our business and we focus so much on our consumers, our customers. We get futurists that, talk about what are the trends. Oh, AI is coming and this is coming and how do we do business? And then right here under our noses, we totally do not appreciate and plan and groom and grow and develop our youngest generation in the workforce, who, by the way, is the future of our business. And this always boggles my mind because people will come in, let's say, in entry-level jobs, fresh out of school, or maybe internships, and then people of maybe other generations get really irritated with them because they don't understand how the culture works. They don't understand how the rules work. They don't know that, you shouldn't, email that executive vice president. What? You shouldn't send that person a note. Wait, don't talk to that. How can you not know this stuff? That's it. You don't fit in. It's it boggles my mind. That they don't know how to act. There's this sink or swim mentality of when people come out of school, especially if they're coming just out of school and they don't have any work experience. Of course, they have no idea what the cultural norms are that environment. and who, the politics and navigating the who and the what. And then it hurts my heart when you see people, like, especially leaders, let them sink or swim and then make these really quick snap judgments on them because they maybe display some professional immaturity. If they didn't, display some professional immaturity, I would be shocked. And yes, there are those rare few where it's like, wow, you really do have this high level emotional intelligence already at a young age, and that's pretty amazing. But that's rare too. I mean, even the people with the highest, emotional intelligence and capability and work ethic and such in the younger generations are still going to mess up. They're still going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person. They're still going to not know a process. They're going to still not understand the norms or protocol for your particular business or industry. It boggles my mind that people they're not taking the time to grow them. And I feel like we do such a disservice. Instead, what we end up doing a lot of the time, and I mean the collective we, what I observe anyway, I can speak from that, is people pay more attention to the leaders and executives who are the higher ranking people, or higher ranking people in general, who tend to be more of the older generations. So it's like, how do we serve them? How do we serve them, make them happy because they're the ones in charge? And meanwhile, we're missing this ginormous gap of really taking care of our future workforce. Now, I know there are futurists out there who specialize in, kind of like, I don't know if it's like magic 8-ball stuff, but, looking at data and looking at trends and making some judgments potentially on where workforce trends are going. And I think it's really cool. In fact, I have a friend who's a futurist, and I think it's absolutely fascinating type of skill, type of field that they go into. Now, by no means do they know exactly what's going to happen, because literally nobody can tell the future, not even, those tarot card readers and such from malls or whatever. But it's like, I think they do a pretty good job of just seeing how, like, the cyclical value too of generations, as well as, the trends we're seeing, as well as coupling like technology and marketplace and such to kind of have some predictions. It's really interesting. But I think one of the big things that you don't even need a futurist to tell you is just to recognize whatever generation you're in, is there are definitely attributes of your generation. Like, I'm a Gen Xer, I'm a young Gen Xer. But like, people say Gen Xers are cynical. Okay, I'm a little sarcastic. Yeah, very. Tend to be very independent. We were the first like latchkey generation of kids where parents were working and didn't know where you were. And so you had your own key and you would come and go whenever. And we didn't grow up with cell phones. So we were out and about doing whatever, God knows what till when, as long as we were home before the lights were on. And we drank out of hoses in the backyard. And we did a lot of really silly, stupid, daring things. And we were also kind of the MTV generation, the first time you had music videos on TV. And it's been fascinating to see from going to that to the technology today, spanning all these generations. But that being said, I look at like the Gen Zers, and there are definitely times where I'm just like, man, they don't understand what it means to work hard, or they don't understand that, I've turned into that person I never wanted to be, where it's like, back in my day, I walked up hill both ways in the snow and all I had was a potato in my pocket because it kept me warm, and that was my lunch. I'm channeling my grandfather's voice. That was a terrible impression, by the way, my poor Hungarian grandpa. Anyway, but like, there are definitely things that of course get on our nerves about other generations, and granted, those are very stereotypical generalizations of generations. However, I think what would better serve us is to actually create almost a living trust with these generations, recognizing that especially if you're in the Xer and Boomer generation, is that we are not the future. We are the here and now, sure, but it is up to us to prepare the youngest generation for the future if we want not only them to succeed, but the business to keep thriving for the next X amount of years and X amount of time. And with that is always going to come generational differences. But however, I remember when I was baby comm specialist working at Disneyland like a bazillion years ago, feels like a lifetime ago, and I misstepped hard. I pointed out a colleague of mine's typo in a joking way, but I replied all to an email that had executives on it. And she came and gave me, like, talked me down, man, like gave me a what for. And frankly, well deserved. And I'll never forget that lesson because I felt so bad, didn't think about what I was doing, thought I was just, being funny about it and wasn't funny. And then from then on, boy, that reply all function, don't do it. Don't do it. But that was a good example to me. And she ended up being someone I just really looked up to. And when she retired and, we became friends, I really appreciated being called out on something stupid like that and explained why that was a bad thing. And I know at the time she was emotional and mad, but I absorbed it and I kept it, and it was a good lesson rather than so many people just ignore those and then go, oh, yeah, we're not going to hire that person because they did this, they did that. Well, did anyone actually tell them what they did, coach them on what they did? Probably not. But so again, like none of us know when the time we're little, we don't know how to walk or talk or hold a fork, etc. But it's no different when we enter the professional work environment for the first time either. We don't know who's holding the forks and how to talk because everywhere has its own culture and language too. And we need to help them. And that's why I think building a living trust with your future generation is even more important than worrying about, us getting all old and curmudgeon-y going back in my day. Like nobody needs to hear that. Now, what we do bring, I think, to the table, if you are in a older generation or more experienced generation in the workforce, is you do bring experience, right? You do bring the been around the block kind of stuff. And I will talk to the Gen Zers who happen to be listening to this and say, listen to that. A lot of it's cautionary tale stuff. Some of it, get the good nuggets out of it, but I would definitely wear that filter of we do it because this is the way we've always done it. Like I hate that phrase too. And don't do that, but it's good to say, oh, that's interesting that you've been there. That's interesting you did that before, and here's how it went or didn't go. Ask a lot of questions of people who've been there. Ask them about the history, the heritage of the place. They're going to also know the culture better than anybody. They're going to know the who's and what's. They're going to know how to network better than you. They're going to know who the head of that department or who the influencers are, the internal organizational influences are. So ask those questions and glean that from them. And then I think likewise for our Gen Zers, we can learn a lot about, just a fresh take on things, what different expectations there are in the work environment for this generation. It's very different. Some people get upset about it, like it's dumb, it's stupid. It's like, hey, I love the fact they don't want to work in an office. I love the fact that they're more about mental health awareness and work-life balance. Like those are good things that are good for all of us. So I'm going to use an old phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to the newer generations. Like truly embrace what every generation can bring together, because that to me is where the magic will happen. But you have to teach. All right, I'm going to get into some sips. First sip. Culture basics. You have got to teach the youngest people in your workforce, the most entry-level people, culture basics. Some you may have forgotten, how we act in meetings even, cultural norms. There are times where somebody will do something and I won't even think about it because I'm so used to the way we quote unquote do things. And then someone new will come in and do it differently and you're like, ooh, wouldn't have done that. Or, that's interesting. Maybe we should lean into that. Right? But I think giving them a baseline of cultural norms so they do feel like at first they're fitting in, and especially some cultural norms can step in it politically a little too much. So you've got to teach them that. You've got to help, whether it's through job shadowing, it's coaching them when you see that behavior, it's explaining like how do we book meetings and who books meetings and who do you meet with and not meet with and all those things. Gotta coach on that. And that leads me to my second sip. Coach behavior. They're going to misstep, and that's okay. That's how you learn. Babies, when they try to walk, they trip, they fall on their butts all the time. It's okay. That's how they learn. Keep going, keep up. But you have to be there to lift them back up and say, all right, what happened? And here's what happened. And what can we do better next time? Failure is not a thing. It's like, it's a misstep. It's a learning. And Just make sure you're coaching that on-the-spot behavior and helping them. And then last step, finally, care about their POV, care about their point of view. Maybe they have fresh perspective, fresh thinking, and how the modern environment, in the modern workplace should work, and listen to them. I mean, that is gold when you're thinking about how can I present to my leaders how to future-proof our workforce, our work environment, even if sometimes they don't listen because they're all about here and now and our generation and maybe only focused on consumers. But this is not just an HR problem or, other people's problem. This is a leadership problem. We need to make sure that we're creating an environment where these new, friends that are joining the workforce and right out of school and entry-level roles are being brought in and feeling like they can thrive. And yes, it's going to be different. And yes, it's sometimes going to go against what you feel like people should act like in a work environment. But be okay with that. Like, get curious about it. Ask questions. And furthermore, just embrace it, because the more you can design for the future of your people and the workforce and the environment, the better you're going to be to build for the future of your business. Thank you for having a cup of coffee with me. For more sips and tips, connect with me on social and follow Leader Sips on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And don't forget to visit my website, carlinholbrook.com. Until next time, keep on brewing.